Michael. Welcome to the BlockHash podcast live. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here and you're on today to talk about ceramic. Before we do that, want to know a little bit more about you and yourself. Tell me what's your background? What'd you do before this? What's your story? How'd you get into crypto? What got you excited about the industry?
For sure. So my crypto journey started back in 2016. I joined Consensus, which at the time was an early blockchain company. It was basically the only one around building anything on Ethereum. Um, and so, yeah, at the time I was living in San Francisco, working at a design and product consultant studio. And we had started taking on some projects from clients that could have benefited from a blockchain or Ethereum enabled solution. And I just kind of got tired of proposing these things and wanted to actually start building. So yeah, I made the jump to Consensus. And when I was there, we sort of formed this team and it became the Uport project. And so Uport was sort of the first self-sovereign identity and user-controlled data platform that was trying to use blockchain. Um, and that's sort of where I met a bunch of really smart people, some of like those that were thinking foundationally about some of what this new paradigm of building actual dApps on a decentralized platform could look like. So yeah, I guess it all started there.
Yeah, are you a developer by trade, or do you just work with developers?
Uh, Somewhere in between. It's like I'm the co-founder of the company, so I really don't write that much code these days. But I definitely sort of am more thinking about technical architectures and sort of what types of access patterns and how should the tech be built more than actually writing code.
Okay, got it. What what got you interested in that kind of stuff though? Were you just like looking at the technology and curious how, it could, be a little bit better from a developer side and how applications can be built, or was there like something specific that got you interested in that?
Yeah, it really started with I was doing client work for a Fortune 50 retailer.
Hmm.
Um, and we were really trying to come up with ideas of how they can improve the personalization experience on their platform. And one of our proposed solutions was really about, letting users sort of own their own data, which we sort of separated from identity at that time. We said, what if users could you know have this like vault of data that when they showed up at your site they could sort of present to you and your interface could sort of mold to them rather than sort of requiring them to start using your platform in order for you to start providing recommendations and things to them. And so it really came from that perspective of like how might web services change and how might the customer and user experience improve in a world where um, the paradigm of data ownership and control was flipped from servers to users. And then that, blockchain and Ethereum, particularly at the time, was really the only platform that offered smart contracts and programmability. And so, yeah, we thought, why not try to build some of these things?
Yeah, when you talk about, stored data, are you talking about like privately stored data by like individuals and being able to like own your data, or are you talking about like where you store it, like on the cloud and stuff like that?
They're somewhat related, but it's a good distinction to make. So, to me, sort of control just means the ability to provide access or permissions to that data, which
Hmm.
in some ways needs to be controlled by the user. But ultimately, the back end or where the data is stored could be a variety of places. It could be like a centralized server on AWS, a database. It could be locally on my computer or my mobile phone, or it could be on IPFS or somewhere else on the decentralized web. And so, owning or controlling your data to me is more about aggregating the discovery and the access to that data, even if the data actually lives somewhere else. Because application developers will choose to build with whatever backend really suits their needs. And in an identity system should be interoperable with all of those, right? It should be sort of independent. And that's a good way to think about the difference.
Yeah, that's a huge focus in the blockchain space too, is privacy and controlling data and flow of data, where your data is stored, how your data is stored. And I imagine obviously that's a lot involved with what you guys do with Ceramic, right? Ceramic Network. Also, you do what is it called? Three Box Labs? Or did Ceramic come out of Three Box Labs?
It did. So
Okay.
Three Box Labs started. We were actually just called Three Box, and we made this developer library called Three Box, and it was a tool that a dev could just add to their Web3 app, and it gave them like distributed data storage. And we learned a ton over the last 2 years of building it. We became the leading identity system in Ethereum with over 100,000 users having profiles and verified Twitter accounts and all of this. And there were just the industry evolved over time, and developers became more sophisticated. And Three Box was sort of a simple to use, easy to drop in solution, but it sort of had its limitations because we wanted to make it super easy to use. And so Ceramic is sort of evolved out of that into a fully decentralized protocol that's super configurable and broadens what can actually be done with decentralized data.
Yeah, so like with decentralized data, what do you guys do with Ceramic, or what does Ceramic do with that more specifically?
Yeah, so I like to sort of like think about how people build applications and what's required. If you make the comparison to blockchain's provided this, like Ethereum, for example, is this global platform where you can deploy a smart contract and some people can use it, right? And as I use it, the state of the contract changes. So basically, like, I transferred this many tokens to you and you did to me, and it updates what the current, status of that piece of information is. And a lot of Web3 developers have sort of started maturing in their approach to application development, saying, what if we're using blockchains for the financial infrastructure, but how should we handle the data infrastructure? And what about decentralizing my database? And so Ceramic provides similar functionality where it allows developers to sort of publish data to IPFS, but also update and transform that data over time. And so it really, I wouldn't call Ceramic a database, but it does give you that type of capability of saying, how can we, actually store data in a decentralized way that's not just a static file. So, like an NFT or something is just an image, and it is that image all the time. But when you're thinking about, building features into your application that, require user input, like I'm making a comment somewhere, or I want to update my profile, or I want to, do this thing, add a note to a to-do list. Like these are all things that need to evolve. And so Ceramic is really a platform for building apps with Web3 data that's really complementary to building on blockchains.
Okay, got it, got it. I could hear the cops in the background. I'm like, Michael, run! They're coming for you.
I know, I was really about to hide. I guess it's one of the downsides of living next to a firehouse. So
I thought that was me for a second in Miami, so I got the headphones on. I'm like, are they coming for me? um, yeah, but that's what you mean by like streams of data, right? When you have not just like static data like images and stuff like that, but things that are needing to be updated, changed, and whatnot. Correct?
yeah, and streams of data, it touches a little bit on the familiar Web 2 concepts. In the Web 2 world, people are advanced applications and systems are moving towards this event-driven architecture where you represent an object of data as just this like series of things, and at the end you like look at this like chain of data events and you kind of like reduce it to the data and it's the current state. And whenever I want to like update it, I just add a new sort of event to the end of that chain. You can think of them as like data chains, and they each have a version. It's completely like evolutionary. And so building applications on top of these flows of data is really the natural way to build applications on IPFS and on Web3.
Got it. Like what things are being built through Ceramic on Web3 application wise, or what has been done?
A lot of exciting stuff. So I think there's a couple things that I want to highlight. They're coming for me again.
They're after you today, man.
Jesus. It's been quiet all day. So the first super exciting one is decentralized identity. And really, as we sort of talked about before, identity is just a collection of all of my data from all of my interactions across all of my applications. And the key to identity is sort of, having this platform agnostic place, where my identity that isn't my account on Ethereum, or it's not my account on Polkadot or my account on Solana, it's sort of abstracted from all of those, where I, as like an independent user, can publish information and others can discover that information and make use of it. And so it really enables this mode of, a common place where any application can write and read to, and read from my data. And so we're seeing that being adopted largely in the DAO space right now. There's a problem, or an emerging problem, where as these DeFi protocols and other, platforms are deploying on different blockchains. So you might have one deployment on Ethereum, you might have one deployment on Phantom or Solana. And on each of those platforms, users have different wallet accounts. So I'm using, let's, for example, say Uniswap, like, not that they're actually deploying on these places, but on Ethereum, I use Uniswap, my Ethereum account for Uniswap. And on, Phantom, I would have to use my Phantom account. And so users are fragmenting their on-chain identities across all of these different platforms. But when it comes to governance of the protocol, governance is sort of chain agnostic, right? So if we're governing Uniswap, or if we're governing any of these protocols, we're not governing just the Ethereum implementation. And so governance is this aggregated function. And so decentralized identity is really important because it lets users sort of aggregate all of their wallet accounts from their different chains into one data identity with which they're, creating proposals or discussing improvements and building up a reputation. And so that's been really exciting to see the DAO space start to mature in its use of decentralized identity. We actually had an exciting integration go live with Boardroom yesterday. So boardroom.info is kind of like this DAO middleware platform where they integrate a lot of DAO tooling into one simple interface. And so now they're supporting Ceramic-enabled decentralized identities and Ceramic-enabled commenting. They have a new feature called ideation, where people can, pre-proposal submit like an idea for something, and the community can comment and deliberate on it right in the context of that application, versus needing to go to like Discord or Discourse or some other place to do it.
This one, the trustless forums.
Yeah, exactly. So it's trustless forums, and they're also using it for identity. And so I think like that's a huge, DAOs and identity are a huge place where Ceramic is seeing traction. And another one is, interestingly, the NFT space. So Ceramic has this feature called NFT DID, which basically turns any NFT on any blockchain into an identity that can control data in Ceramic. And so really, when you think about what that means, is it's an access control mechanism that allows the current owner of the NFT to be the only one allowed to write or, potentially even read data from this NFT. So it's a way to basically allow NFTs to build up a library of data beyond just like its image or, what the creator of the NFT put in the original file. And all of that contributes to more value for NFTs. So, now you can think about valuing an NFT not just along the data that the initial creator put in there, but also the data that it accumulated throughout all of its ownership history. And there's like a ton of interesting use cases that come from that, but we're definitely seeing a lot of traction in that area as well.
Yeah, it looks like you guys have a bunch of use cases just like scrolling through here. You got this, obviously the boardroom thing. You got GeoWeb, which is what you were kind of talking about with NFT DIDs, correct? And then
Correct.
cross-chain identity, reputation, multi-app user profiles, document database, multi-app data. Yeah, it looks like you guys got like quite a bit of use cases already, which is pretty good. How long have you guys been around?
So we launched our test net maybe 6 months ago, maybe four. Time is all warped these days. But since going live on and launching testnet, we've had over 350 projects sign up for the waitlist for Ceramics mainnet, and we actually just launched mainnet a few weeks ago, and we're onboarding projects off that waitlist every day. We just, and so it's like we're getting more signups than we can at the speed, or people are signing up faster than we can onboard them. So the list is growing, but we're instituting this waitlist program because it allows us to ensure that the platform and protocol is performant and stable as it grows in adoption. Like the last thing we would want is to sort of say like fully decentralized system, like everyone go, and then it immediately hits some unforeseen issue. And so for equality and consistency reasoning, we're sort of taking that process slowly. But yeah, we just onboarded.
That's a good problem to have, though. A lot of people wanting to join, even though you guys can't quite support it and guarantee, the same kind of experience. But I mean, it's a good thing to have.
Oh, you don't hear me complaining for sure. I mean, and they're great projects, like some of, I sort of won't name drop any that haven't gone live yet because I think some of them are still sort of in development of the integration. But I mean, in the last 2 days, we've onboarded Boardroom, we've onboarded ArcX, who's creating a DeFi passport, basically like a DeFi credit score, more or less, based on all of your on-chain activity. And they're sort of publishing that score into a Ceramic stream, so it's permissionless. We've onboarded Doing Good, DOINGUD, which is an NFT marketplace and platform. There's like a variety of use cases and ways that they're using Ceramic. So lots of exciting projects, and yeah, I sort of expect this trend to continue as long as we continue to be able to do what we say we do.
Yeah, what do you guys mean by a DeFi passport or credit score? Like I've heard stuff like that before, but like what is that exactly? Is that like just like some type of glorified credit score for when you use DeFi products and services across different platforms, or is it something more unique and specific than that?
I think that's mostly how they're implementing it. So we're not creating that. We're just the platform that they're using to store this DeFi score. So we're a bit agnostic to that. But yeah, from what I understand, it's a way for this service basically to look at all of your on-chain activity. Like, have you been liquidated? How many loans have you taken? How long did it take you to repay them? Like, what's your asset to debt ratio? Like all of these things, and it sort of calculates the score for you. And obviously they could just run an API that other applications, when a user shows up, like the other app could like hit their API to get the DeFi credit score. But by storing it in Ceramic, it means that they don't have to run an API service. When any of these other companies or protocols or platforms want to know, like, what is this user score, they could sort of just submit a query to the Ceramic network and they'll get back that score versus needing to rely on a centralized institution or API for that.
Yeah, I'm still kind of iffy on like what the benefit of having a credit score for DeFi is. Like, because in like centralized finance, like for the banks, for example, you need to see a credit score if you're going to lend money to someone, because you need to determine the tolerance of risk that you have loaning money to someone that might be more high risk to not paying it back. In DeFi though, I mean, it's so decentralized. It almost, I don't know if it makes sense or not to have a credit score. Maybe it does, in terms of, balancing it out in some type of way, but I don't know. It's a picture that I haven't been able to really paint quite.
Yeah, I think the use cases are still to be imagined. I think it's just sort of an open primitive that others can choose to use how they want. But I think in some of the earliest adoption might be seen in some of these under collateralized lending platforms, versus that platform needing to do like a holistic judgment on you to say like, if you want to take out a loan from Maker, you have to over collateralize at X amount. And I think some of these new emerging financial primitives that are actually under collateralized, so I can actually take out more debt than I have to put in as collateral, are going to be more dependent on things like decentralized identity and some form of reputation and some form of information based on my historic actions that are somewhat they don't guarantee what I will do in the future, but they paint a better picture than just saying everyone is completely anonymous and we treat everyone equally. Because I think like that serves people that already have money, but people that don't yet, it kind of like limits their ability to access credit.
Yeah, I think that would make sense from that aspect, having a credit score that's, kind of anonymous in terms of how it's judged, or it's equal in some ways, so that it's not like discriminating in any kind of way. So that, people can get lending options from some centralized body. From that perspective, I get it. That makes sense. But I don't know. There's so much going on in DeFi in general. It's hard for me to keep up with it sometimes. And I talk to more people on average than anyone else does. And it's just every single time I do another podcast episode, every time I see a news cycle, every time I see a new startup come out or a new project, I'm just like, there's just something new in DeFi. And I'm just like, how? How is there so many new different things in DeFi? It's impossible to keep up with sometimes.
It's definitely true. I mean, I'm just happy that, we get to sort of focus on the data infrastructure layer and let all these people figure out all these new financial primitives. And, we've been more focused on the Web3 side of the sort of decentralized web ecosystem. And we get to just sort of support these projects as they, figure out what they need to store in a decentralized way, rather than needing to sort of think through some of these new things ourselves, because they are quite complex and sort of composable and compounding. So it's hard to keep
Yeah,
up.
it's those concepts they keep coming up with and throwing out. I just can't keep up with. But you got an easier job. You can just put your head down and work on the tech and not have to worry about it. So I admire that.
Yes.
But do you guys have a community with ceramic, like a place for people to come together and share what they're working on and ideas they have, and talk about ceramic and how to improve it or make it better, how they're using it, or anything like that?
Yeah, there definitely is. Most activity happens in our Discord channel, which can be found by just typing chat.ceramic.network, in the URL bar, and it'll redirect you to our Discord. And a lot of developers are there asking questions, thinking about how can my application leverage the capabilities of the Ceramic platform? How should I be thinking about decentralized identity? All of these questions, and everything, of course, is open source. So on our GitHub, the entire code base and all the tooling built on top of it is there. We have people submitting PRs every day, adding new capabilities to Ceramic, which is probably personally the most motivating to me, because, as any decentralized technology should aspire to be, like, it's only as decentralized as its contributors and as its community. And we're seeing a growing development ecosystem, not just of people integrating Ceramic, but also working to improve it. We have a full CIP process where if things want to get added to the protocol, they go through, your typical decentralized improvement proposal. And we do community calls every other week. We have open office hours where you can drop by. And yeah, we basically work completely out in the open. So there's no, siloed, separate back channel community. It's sort of like all there in the public.
Very cool. Very cool. So like mostly Discord. Do you guys have like a Telegram or anything like that?
We don't have a Telegram yet.
Okay.
That'll come in time. I think as our community diversifies, and there's different stakeholder groups, but most people today are just developers that want to build amazing apps. So we thought Discord is the right place for them to be able to do that.
Okay, perfect. I'll try and get those links and put them in the description. Or if you have them, you can send them over my way via email or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay, cool. We'll go ahead and wrap up the podcast there just a couple minutes early. I think we covered enough. But Michael, thanks for taking the time to come on. It was a pleasure to have you. Appreciate you, making the time and everything and diving into what ceramic is and how it's beneficial for Web3 development and developers and how fast you guys are growing in the space too.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brandon. It's kind of been an amazing ride. It took us a year and a half to get the technology right. So it's definitely an exciting time where we get to bring it to market and actually see real projects going live. It's pretty validating.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see how you guys like unfold over the next year and everything. So definitely keep me updated and stay in touch.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things.
All right, cool. Stay on for just a second and we'll wrap it up here. Again, Michael, thanks for taking the time to come on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon.